All right, y'all. Everybody should be able to hear me. Um, Should be good to go. All right, perfect. So we're gonna go ahead and let this thing on. We're recording AI notes. So got a pretty busy week ahead of us. Got some more corporate earnings. Plus, we got some geopolitical issues happening over there in the Middle East right now. So I know there's been a lot of craze talking about, okay, these are the stocks to invest in, blah, 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 over the weekend headlines, all of that good stuff. Where my attention really points to the most realistically is really going to be just downside action in the market in the short term. So I don't really focus on like when the defense stocks and the oil stocks run your Lockheed Martins, those things just run the day after, right? Or a day or two after, right? By Wednesday, those stocks will end up retracing. So those are not highly tradable industries that you're going to see a lot of volume in them consistently, right? You'll see a rush of volume, but then that volume will die down very quick. So always, anytime bombs get dropped, everyone's quick to say, okay, I need to go look at Lockheed. I need to go look at this defense. I need to like, they're good trades if you already were in. Keyword already were in. So if you were in those plays last week on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, tomorrow those plays will probably open up. But you're going to probably see a profit take after open. So my attention is not even on that. It's business as usual, focusing on what's in front of us. All the other stuff is just really outside noise, in my opinion. Now, one thing that we did realize, particularly, was last week. I noticed that the VIX, and I'll pull up Yahoo Finance. There we go. The VIX this week is going to be key to watch, especially with the geopolitical tensions. So you definitely want to monitor and watch on the CBO volatility index, the VIX, 22 and 25. Last week we tried to break 22 on Friday. We couldn't do it. So watch that 22 and 25 mark going into next week. Also, as well, on a QQQ and a SPY, we'll do both of those. Let's do SPY. All right. So shout out to all my West Coast people. Had a really great time. East Coast people, I'm back. I know there were some people that were saying they was gonna come and get me if I didn't come back, but I am back. Right on attack mode, man. We don't take no time off. We got a action-packed week here. So if you're a beginner, make sure you do tap in. I just forgot to make this announcement. It's going to take a second to load, but make sure you tap in all week, the next 3 days. If you're a beginner, just getting started, we got 3 beginner classes right and ready for you. So with our SPY and our QQQ, looking at it this week, I think the SPY was down about $2 after hours anyway. So you'll just want to watch the SPY, still the same levels, 675, 676. Those are going to be the same points and areas that you want to watch the SPY at. So if you do see a break, if you do end up getting a breakdown there, it'll be right around those areas and those levels. So SPY 675, 676. That's the spot that you want to watch it at, right? For the S&P 500. So keep your eyes close and peeled on that. Also on the QQQ, underneath $600 a share. We currently did have a bear flag pattern as of Friday's close on QQQ, but still underneath 600 and 596 will remain your key levels. These would be honestly areas where price can bounce again. I was teaching the great people out there about theta positive strategies and selling covered calls and cash secured puts. Now we've been trading in this range bound market for literally like now 6, 7 months in a row. You're not really seeing really any movement higher nor lower, particularly on any of these indices. Our top two, two of our top ones with the Nasdaq and the S&P. So it's been every time we've came to a key support level, we've reversed. So I expect that trend to continue. We do have a multitude of corporate earnings. So let's go ahead and talk about that. We got Target this week. We got CrowdStrike. We got Broadcom. We got Okta. We got Costco. We got Marvel Tech. So you got some good earnings that are coming out. Particularly, I want to talk about CrowdStrike and as well AVGO here first. So let's get CRWD. We've seen a trend that's kind of happened here so far with some of the other cybersecurity names like Zscaler and Palo Alto Network. So Crowd recently made a lot of questions have came in on the back end. We're down from about 566 all the way to 370 So this is exactly what we wanted. My opinion is that crowd within these ranges is now a buy. So if you are looking at CrowdStrike, you are now you should be looking for a buy on Crowd, ticker CRWD. So this to me is a good point to look to go long on CRWD. The Crowd is, like I said, in a good point. It's at a great point for you to go long on it. Long-term investing, I wouldn't quite do any options, but going into this week, let's say Crowd has a report and it bombs the report. The level that I think Crowd is going to come to is like 275. But I think there's an opportunity for Crowd to see a 50% retracement from its all-time high. Right there around 275 is the area long-term investing wise that becomes super, super attractive. And that would be a steal, right? This company falling 50% with the growth prospects on this company over the next 2 years. So a lot can happen with CrowdStrike. I still believe, a lot of people have asked, do my thoughts change on CrowdStrike being $1,000 company one day? No, my thoughts do not change. We all knew that this type of pullback definitely could happen. And, none of us are surprised by CrowdStrike pulling back into 360, down here to 370, right? So I do think another $100 would be even a better price and, make it more attractive. Do I think that this is a perfect price here? Definitely not. But I think it's worth you starting to look to go ahead and execute and put some orders in, limit orders in to fill 325, 300, 275. Really start to take a look at that. And then, yeah, if we report earnings this week and the stock ends up falling, we'll love it. If this stock comes down $40, there's going to be excitement after hours for us. No one's going to be sad about it. So that's my thoughts with CrowdStrike. And yeah, AVGO, Broadcom, it's at about 317. Of course, we know NVIDIA reported their earnings. They didn't really do anything on their earnings at all as far as movement outside of when they popped initially. And then once the market opened up, all of those gains got wiped off the table. So you've seen a lot of selling that came in, particularly on NVIDIA after earnings. And we'll pull up NVIDIA as well here on the left side of the screen. Still, the kill zone level remains $164. So what I mean by that is, like in the past, I said it, the past 6-7 months, we haven't seen any move on NVIDIA at all, right? It's been in the same spot over and over again. So unless NVIDIA is getting below that level, it's likely that we end up just continuing to just trade sideways, right? So those are my thoughts on ticker NVDA at this time, is that we'll probably just continue to just trade sideways over and over again. So that's what I'm anticipating and expecting from NVDA, sideways action. All right. Now on AVGO, watching 308 and 295. So as far as AVGO from a price perspective, if you pull up Broadcom real quick on your screen, AVGO, you go to company statistics, you'll notice that the forward PE is lower than the trailing. So earnings are anticipated to grow on this business. Just to give you a synopsis over the past 12 months here, year-over-year growth earnings-wise of 172%. You also have a net income of $23 billion with a revenue of $63 billion. You have 4.74 billion outstanding shares. So this is not a low float. This is a high float, right? So this is a high floater, very high float. Profit margin of 36% and operating margin of 31%. You have a price to sales ratio of about 24. So the price to sales is not really bad at all. At 24, pretty fair, not a bad price. Currently, the stock is at 317. The PDE right now, trailing 12 months, is about $67. So if you were to put in, we'll pick 220, right? And you divided that by $4.76. That would knock the PDE ratio down to about 46. So if you can get if you can get an opportunity to get this name lower, makes a ton of sense. The 200 range, lower 200 range would make a ton of sense long-term investing wise. If you were looking for a price of where you would want to buy this investment, back down at 216, $180, right? Not saying that those levels materialize overnight, but if we're truly to correct and AVGO does break these levels to the downside, that's where you would want to be a buyer at. So Broadcom, the question of whether you would if you were buying it today, would you be overpaying? The simple answer to that question is yes. If you were buying the business today, you would be overpaying for the investment. The simple answer to that is yes. Yeah, you would be overpaying. Where would a fair price be? Down there in between 180 to 200. Now we know historically tech stocks always trade a little bit more overvalued. So people are willing to pay more today because of the future earnings prospects, right? So people are expecting that in the future, earnings end up pushing upward a lot more. So people are willing to pay more of an expensive price today in that regard. Yeah. Next stock we're going to talk about is Oracle. So you're looking for Oracle to actually get below 140 on the downside this week and take out 135. That's the only way that and after 135, you'll be looking at 126. All right, so you got to see Oracle on any downside move this week has to get below 140. All right, so do watch that on there. Once again, the price for Oracle, you still want to get that in between 100 to 120 bucks. So that price will be right around the corner. So those are my thoughts there at this time. We got Shopify as well. I posted Shopify is a good entry for puts. I think Shop is going to dump down to about 110, 112 over the next couple of weeks. So Shopify gives you a good option to catch some downside move here, an ARC ETF ticker. So shop to the downside over the next couple of weeks, put some puts out till June, get you a 120, 130 strike, hold that thing to 110, 112. Very simple. You got A-Lab, which is in a bear flag pattern. Underneath 116, it has a $13 move down. So A-Lab in a bear flag pattern, ticker ALAB, right? A-Lab, right, is in a bear flag pattern. So look at A-Lab potentially pulling back here. If we can see A-Lab getting below, that'd be perfect for us to get it down, get it down here at those levels. So A-Lab, look at it on the downside. Pretty simple and what we're looking for. A-Lab right now. Questions. You put some questions in the chat. We're just going through tickers right now. So we'll get to some of your questions here in a second. You got Enphase. Oh, excuse me, not Enphase. Nothing to cover there. Let's talk now. SoFi Technologies. That's not. But you had a weekly break below $18 a share last week. We closed at about 17.76. So when you're looking at SoFi Technologies, the next couple key levels is 1650 and 1492. So those are the next couple key levels there on this company. So on the downside action, we're looking at, you're looking at this name pulling down further. So like I said, I would not be surprised to see SoFi go back to $10. So I know a lot of people have been shorting this name over the past couple of weeks. So with me, we continue to get more of a move downward. Next stock I want to talk about is NEBIS, NBIS. NEBIS is still within a long extended bear flag going back to November. They've briefly broken out of it a couple of times to the upside in January and as well last month, but nothing's been able to hold. Very similar to A-Lab. So if you're looking at NEBIS on the weekly time frame, you'll see that we're in a huge bear flag. So just wanted nothing quite for you to trade this week, but you definitely want to make sure that you have this down. Once we get underneath about $80 a share, NEBIS was down 13 on Friday. That's where I think you'll see more of the rotation come into. So we'll probably drop further to the downside underneath $80. That'll be the break of the bear flag. So nothing, like I said, for you to take a trade on this week, but just put this on your watch list and set some alerts because obviously whenever it does break, you want to be in position to be able to trade this thing and be aware. So those are my thoughts on that at this time. Next stock we have is Microsoft. So for those just coming in, we covered the QQQ and the SPY early. I anticipate that Microsoft as well still has some more selling. I want to see them get below 384 and make a lower low. All right. So I want to see them make a lower low, getting below 384. I want to see them make a lower low. They made a lower high last week, weren't able to break, but if you're looking on the daily and the weekly time frame, you'll clearly see made a lower low, right? And then made a lower high. Now we're looking to go ahead and make a lower low again. You're waiting on that to actually materialize on Microsoft. A stock this week, which is AMD, which I do think can actually break down. But the only way it's going to do that is underneath 193 bucks. So keep your eyes on 193 this week on AMD. They closed at about 200 at the 4 p.m. bell. Now we're looking for, like I said, AMD to break below 193 and then head down to about 186. So if you've been looking at AMD in the past couple of months, trying to figure it out, that's what you want to look for, on the downside action on AMD. All right. So AMD below 180, but below that 183, like I said, you should see some more downside action. So yeah, those are my thoughts on AMD. Mm. Microsoft got that there. Get Palo Alto Network again. Palo Alto Network made a lower low, proceeded to make a lower high. Then you're going to go back and make a lower low. So this week, realistically, is going to be the week where you see a lot of lower lows getting made. So that's what you should watch out for on a lot of these companies. There's a lot of lower lows being made. Bitcoin and Ethereum held up over the weekend so far. So we'll see what they do tonight. Sometimes they can be an indicator, leading indicator of what's to happen next. On Nvidia this week, underneath 174 bucks, there's a move down to right underneath here. Nvidia could drop back to about 168. So if Nvidia does continue selling, it'll only be underneath 174 and a move to about 168. So that could pull back the Nasdaq and the Qs. You want to look for a close underneath 600 this week. But yeah, if you don't get a close underneath 600 at all this week, we'll probably still stay within the same ranges. And then you got to get underneath 592. So even with all the things going on, you'll probably obviously probably have a red open. So with that red open, you'll end up obviously seeing that move downward. I mean, I do think it could quickly recover from there. So just my thoughts on, the overall market movement. I know a lot of people have seen the bearish design, but bearish move here in the past, but I just want to keep everybody's head on a swivel. Just if the market opens up red tomorrow, don't just immediately hop in puts and don't immediately go to defense and oil thinking that you're just going to easily make money. You had to be in defense and oil last week to catch that move upward. So just my thoughts. Uh, AXP and some of the banking stocks last week got really hit pretty bad. So AXP is actually right now here at a support level. You just made a lower low on AXP. So I anticipate that you'll probably make a lower high before going any lower on AXP at all. Yeah. Uh, uh. Yeah, as far as MVO, the same thoughts as before. I think that you should be picking up shares at this range. So nothing's changed about my thoughts on MVO. It's the same thoughts I had from before. Still. Mm-mm-mm-mm-mm. That's really the watch list for now. Once again, set your VIX levels for 22 and 25. We'll see what the futures are doing tonight. But until we see what the futures are doing, it's all speculation until then. As futures open up at 6 p.m. EST. We'll get an idea to see exactly how the market react to the events over the weekend. But yeah, that's everything that we're really watching and paying attention to for this week. You got those corporate earnings, those individual equities, and we expect probably some lower lows. But don't be overly biased to the short side in the beginning of the week and get clapped. So those are just the things that I wanted to stress to you guys here today. So that's pretty much it. Yeah. So look forward to next city is Birmingham, Alabama, March 14th. So look forward to all the people who come out there. If you know you're in surrounding states, and definitely would encourage you to come out. We do have a beginner sessions the next 3 days on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So if you know you need to tap into those, make sure you log into class, or if you're working, can't make class, catch the recordings. But that's pretty much it. I appreciate everybody for coming on, and thank you guys for your time. Post this